When let's talk some NBA. So I'm going to spoil something a little bit for you and tell me if you disagree or not. But I have already placed a bet, a very small wager, but a wager nonetheless, on the 2024 NBA champion. Um,
Okay.
and I have Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets repeating. Um, I know
Okay.
it's I know it's hard to repeat. It's the easiest to do it in the NBA, but it's still hard. And I had my doubts going into the year. And listen, Jamal Murray has been, somewhat injured, though he's back right now. But I was in Denver on Easter Sunday, and I watched the
Mhm.
Nuggets play our Cavs in Denver. And when they get that production from Reggie Jackson, Michael Porter, Christian Braun, Jokic doing his thing, I am watching that team live and saying I don't think anybody can beat them in a 7 game series.
Yeah.
Obviously, if this was a 5 game or a 3 game or whatever, I think it could be different. But I had my doubts about Jokic going into last year's playoffs. I kept saying in the NBA, I need to see it.
Yeah.
And then once you get there, I give you the credit. But we all know in the NBA, it's mostly all about those championships. I don't care what you've done about regular season MVPs. We've seen the NBA give the wrong regular season MVP for how many years now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
um, and so with that being said, though, I think Denver's a ride. I think that they are young enough, and if they stay healthy, and it mostly revolves around obviously Jokic and Murray. But I also see a world, and I've been throwing this out to my guests lately. We could have the new dynasty in the NBA in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't disagree with that at all. And they're also my favorite pick right now. And especially because the two teams ahead of them are, I think they have the same record right now, the Timberwolves and the Thunder. Um, I could very much see Denver just absolutely dominating in these playoffs. And to me, it's one of two teams that are going to come out of the West this year. And I think, by the way, whoever comes out of the West will win it all. Um, it's either going to be Denver or it's going to be the Dallas Mavericks. I really like the Dallas Mavericks right now. Like really like them. The way that Kyrie and Luca are playing together right now, pretty much I think almost combining for 80 points a couple nights ago. Like they are on one right now, and I think that's if it matches up this way, I think a Western Conference Finals between the Nuggets and the Mavericks would go to 7. I think it would be one of the
I
best
think the
series we've
way they're
seen in
both
years.
situated, I think it actually be a semifinals. I think Dallas might be walking into that 5 spot. I'm
Yeah, I
not
think they
sure
are. I
about
think
that.
they are. I think they
So
are.
yeah, I mean by the way, Denver Clippers, or excuse me, Dallas Clippers first round matchup is a very interesting one. Um,
Yes,
so
yes,
the West playoffs are nuts. I mean, one of LeBron, Steph, or Kevin Durant are not going to make the actual playoffs. Obviously, they'll be in the play-in tournament, but
yeah,
it just goes to show you how deep it is. And out west, listen, Minnesota and Oklahoma City are nice stories. I don't trust them.
no,
Typically, young teams in the playoffs don't do well.
yeah,
Now I think as much as I like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, I think Minnesota might have a better chance because of the two bigs and because of Anthony Edwards, who
yeah.
seemingly has been on the rise this year. But if they match up against, a Lakers or a Golden State in the first round with that experience, like I could see them easily going home as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I said, I you used a good word there, trust. Just do not trust either the Thunder or the Timberwolves right now. Now, that might be unfair because especially with the Timberwolves, they or with the Thunder, they've got somebody who's probably going to be the MVP in Shy, and I mean, they've got a team that is just so young and so raw that yeah, it's going to be tough for them, especially like their first round matchup, they could get bounced. I mean, like you said, if they match up against the Lakers, or even if it works out like this, the Suns or the Warriors, I could very much see them losing that first round. And the Timberwolves I think are a tough matchup for any team, right? Like you said, they've got those two bigs. They've got Anthony Edwards, who's just like Michael Jordan reincarnated, seems like right now. Like it's absolutely insane how he's been playing this year too. But the Nuggets are sort of just that blue chip thoroughbred, like if they're
And
on, they're
it
going to beat
just
anybody.
seems effortless. And they're kind of
Yeah,
like UConn, who just obviously won the men's national championship
yeah.
in this way, which is, hey, we'll let you stick around for a half. But like as soon as the second half starts, that 6 minutes, it's like the Golden State era, where if you don't survive those 6 minutes coming out of the half, the game could go from 3 to 20 in the blink of an eye, and it's ball game.
Well, and that's a great point that you make, and I wanna bring it back to the 2016 NBA Finals real quick, right? That game seven, the Warriors were up, I think it was six at halftime or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was seven.
Um,
I think it was 53-46. My
yep,
memory
and then
serves.
and then almost right away, JR hits it's a three right out. I think he hits two threes right away, right? And then we bring it back. That won us the game right there. I will always go back to that.
I completely
That
agree.
won the Cavs the game right there because if they let Golden State build that lead after the half, it probably would have gotten up to 15 points, something like that. Cavs were done. Cavs were absolutely done, especially in Golden State. And that crowd, I will
Yeah.
never forget
And
how loud it
Draymond Green,
was.
by the way, played maybe the game of his life.
Is absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So with that being said, you cannot let Denver, even if they have a minimal lead at halftime, you cannot let them build off that and build off that momentum because if they do, they're going to win and they're going to win the whole series. Like that's just how it's going to be. And same with a team like the Mavericks. I don't trust the Pelicans. I don't trust the Suns. Quite frankly, I don't trust the Lakers, and it's not because of the personnel of the Lakers. I think it's the coach of the Lakers, to be
Yeah.
quite honest. Um, but
Here's the thing
of
though,
those, go ahead.
as long as you have LeBron and AD, you obviously have a chance. Now,
Absolutely.
I have made the argument, and you can tell me if you disagree with this or not. If I'm the Lakers, and it's a good debate because I can see either way. I think I want Denver in the first round.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Jamal Murray is not 100% going to be healthy in the first round. And I also think, listen, LeBron and AD, do you really want them to spend 6, 7 game energy on Minnesota or Oklahoma City and then spend it again on a Dallas or whoever and
Right.
then have to play Denver? Like, I'd rather take my shot at them when I at least have my most gas in the tank in the first round.
Right. Absolutely. And I 100% agree with that. And I think that would be a sneaky matchup there where there's a lot of experience on both sides. Obviously, Denver last year's champion. Obviously, you've got LeBron, and with the Lakers there. So it's just like that would be a very interesting. The West is so much more interesting to me this year than the
Oh my
East
God.
is.
Every playoff series feels like it could be a 6, 7 game war. You know,
Absolutely, absolutely.
even if Denver were to play the Lakers, I mean, I know they swept them last year, but people forget the Lakers should have easily won game 2 and game 3, in my
Yep,
opinion, at least. And
yep,
that should have went 6. And then Jamal Murray for most people forget. That's why I was saying going into the finals last year. Jamal Murray was more of a catalyst before the finals than Jokic, in my opinion. Jamal Murray won them 2 of those games against the Lakers by himself. That's how valuable he is.
yep,
Um, but you mentioned the East. Um, was I think Boston's just beating up bad teams. I
yeah,
don't think they're as good as their record says, but I think they're clearly also the best team in the East. Like
sure,
Philly, I want to believe in Philly every year, and then I don't trust them because Joel Embiid always gets hurt. He's hurt again.
yep,
Um, you know, Milwaukee, obviously, I think they have the talent. You can't trust them at all, and they're looking like a disaster, and I don't know what to make of them. And then our Cavs, I don't even know where the hell to begin.
uh,
Um,
yeah, go ahead.
so listen, when you were on here in December, it was right when the Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley injury happened. And we all said, okay, the season's probably over. But then they go on this magical 20-2 run or whatever it was. But I kept saying, if you really look hard at the teams they played during that win streak, they maybe had 2 legitimate wins out of those 18 games or however. It was a lot
Yeah,
of, it was like the Wizards 3 times, the Pistons, the Spurs, the
yep,
Raptors, like every bad team in the league the Cavs beat up on.
yep,
And listen, this is what I honestly believe. JB. Bickerstaff is a coach who does good when there's no pressure on him. That's why the Cavs did so well when their stars were out, because guys could just play free. He didn't have to manage the rotation. They could just
Yep.
beat up on bad teams. And now that everybody's back, and I said as soon as the Cavs got their guys back, I said they were going to start losing a lot of games. And
Yep.
look what happened. Uh, I've never said this before in my life as a fan of any professional team, but there's a part of me that's hoping the Cavs get absolutely annihilated because I think
I
this
hope not.
I think this team needs major changes. I think if they win a round or two, it will be completely smoke screen and will lead to JB staying another year. I don't want to see that. So give me your thoughts on that, and then I have another take on the Cavs that I want to pull by you.
Yeah, the Cavs are in a very interesting spot right now, and I think there's a lot of distraction around what I think is the reason for their struggles recently. I don't think it's a coincidence that when they lost a bunch of games recently, that two, three reports came out about Donovan Mitchell's future with the team, right? I don't think there's a coincidence right now that literally everybody in Cleveland sees the red hot seat that JB figuratively sits in right now. And to me, JB is a good coach. He's not a great coach. To me, JB is one of the one of the worst coaches in the NBA when it comes to drawing up plays, when it comes to last second decisions at the end of games, when it comes to rotational matchup fits. And then we saw it last year against the Knicks in the playoffs. He looked completely lost with some of the matchups that we had against the Knicks. I mean, we were
And
completely outmatched.
and
But
by the way, late game inbounding. I've never seen a
oh,
team that cannot inbound the ball.
that it irks me to my core, and you got to think that's JB, right? Because he's the one drawing up these plays, inbound, like if it's a 3 seconds left in the game and we're down by one, you can almost
They
guarantee
can't
that.
get the ball in. I've
Yeah,
never seen
yeah,
anything like it.
yeah, yeah, and not only that, but they can't get the ball in, and then when they do get the ball in, they just
They're
run out the
they're
clock. They can't find a
it's like they're
shot.
facing the wrong way to the basket. They're throwing it's like there's not even a play. I
Right, you've got Darius dribbling the ball around the court for 5 seconds,
Yeah,
and there's only three left, and you're like, dude,
so
what
much
are you doing?
isolation. I mean, even in the game against Indiana, which I think was epitome of the whole Cavs season. I mean,
Yeah,
they're up 20, then they blow it, and it's like Darius Garland's dribbling around for 20 seconds, and he makes a hero shot, to essentially win you the game, put you up five.
yeah,
But it's like that's not a good play. It's not good
no,
offense. It's a great shot, but
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
yeah. So the other thing that I found interesting was a recent report came out that the Cavs are blaming JB for the reason why Garland and Mitchell are seemingly not connecting on the court. But the one they would rather trade, and this is what I want to get your take on,
Yeah,
is Mobley. They are
yeah,
reportedly disappointed. They thought essentially Evan Mobley would become a baby Anthony Davis by now, which is
yeah,
just a dominating presence on the defensive end and get better offensively, which to me, ever since that second year, he has not done a lot of growth. But I made the argument that I don't think you can win in today's NBA with two small, similar guards. And
yeah,
I get it. The fans love Darius Garland. I think he's the one you move on, and I say this because I was so excited for the Mitchell trade. But if
me
Mitchell
too.
does come to you and say, "Hey, listen, I'm not happy. I want out," there is that argument that hey, we were doing good without Mitchell when we had Marketing and those other pieces. There is that argument where it's like we can see what we can get for Mitchell, and if it's a good enough all in return, if you give me a couple wings back, I would be somewhat okay with letting him go.
I agree with that, and what I disagree with is the fans' perception on Darius. I think fans are very down on Darius right now. Now, it might be a little unfair. I will say this: Darius has been through a lot this year. Obviously, he's been injured, broke his jaw. I mean, in the beginning of the season, he couldn't stop getting literally punched in the face. Like
Same thing
it
last
was,
year. I've
yeah,
never seen a
it's like
guy get
every
hit in the
game.
face so much.
Exactly. Every single game, he's getting some sort of face contusion. But Um, I think it's almost more likely to keep Donovan happy that they say, hey, we'll trade a Darius. I think trading Mobley would be a huge mistake. I think that would be Kobe Altman's worst decision of all time. And if it doesn't work out, if we're bad again next year, if we can't win in the playoffs next year, he'll be fired as well. Like Mobley's only 22 years old, and also with Garland too, he's 24 years old. Garland went through a death in the family as well this year, which
Oh,
nobody's
I did
talking
not
about that.
know that.
Yeah, nobody's talking about that. He went through a pretty significant, I think it was his grandpa or his grandmother, one or the other. Nobody's talking about that. And there was a period where he talked about it for a little bit, and it sort of coincided with when he came back, he started to struggle. Not that that's like the most valid excuse for the way that he's been playing, but
No, but I mean,
nobody,
obviously we've
it's a
all
tough
been
thing.
through it.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely. And he's a
I've
24-year-old. I'm 25. I don't
yeah.
know how I would deal with something
And,
like that right
and
now, you
listen,
know? So,
we'll all never say it. I may have been the only person in the world to ever say this, and to me it's true. And we can all probably acknowledge it. All deaths are not the same.
right,
There are family members that you like and you care about more that you are more sad about than others. It's the
right,
truth.
right. Absolutely, absolutely. And for Darius, it seemed to actually affect his play. It seemed to actually affect his mental state. Um, and I'll go back a little bit to the NFL where I say people are mentally weak. This isn't a situation where he's mentally weak because he's getting hate on Twitter. I honestly think he just had a tough mental year this year. And
Yeah.
then he goes on Twitter or he goes on these apps and he sees Cavs fans crapping on him. You know, really not giving him any sort of benefit of the doubt, which might be fair. He's a hundred something $1 million player right now. But it is something to look at. Now, when it comes to who I would rather trade out of Darius or Mitchell, I think it's more likely that it would be Darius. Um, because I think Donovan is just so valuable and you can sort of morph him into, to me this year he's been a better passer than Garland.
I agree.
Obviously a better shooter.
I said this at the end of last year. I would have traded Garland after last year's playoffs
Yeah.
and moved Mitchell to the point guard.
Yeah.
By the way, I had said, I don't know if I brought this up to you, but I would have called the Clippers. I would have asked for Paul George,
Yeah.
like
Oh,
be,
absolutely.
because at the time before they got rushed, they needed a point guard, and I thought that the Kawhi Leonard Paul George experiment was not working. Obviously their head coach is Ty Lue. Like I thought it would have made perfect sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that could even still be something that happens here, but I think it's more likely that we package some players. I could see Allen being gone. I just don't see them trading Mobley yet. Now, I agree with you. I think that they expect a lot more from him. I think they want him to be like Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett mixed
Yeah,
together. Like
which
I think
which
they,
I have also said too. I don't think he's a center. I think his body is a power forward, and people have
yeah,
pushed back on
absolutely.
me on that. But people forget Tim Duncan was not a center. Tim Duncan was a power forward. He may have played occasional center, but he was in large a power forward.
Yep. And same thing with Kevin Garnett too.
Yeah.
You got to remember he was, and I think Mobley has shown this year that he's improved behind the 3-point line. Obviously, he had I think 6 weeks or something, or it was even probably more like 2 months that he was out. Um, so I think that almost handicaps Mobley to the point where he won't get traded this year because of all the other extending circumstances. I think it's more likely, like I said, that Darius gets moved or a Jarrett Allen gets moved, or both of them. I mean, I could really see that. And, I like Jarrett Allen a lot. I like him a lot. He's been playing so well this year. And to me, there's a couple of players now that if you put them like in the 80s or in the 90s, they would absolutely dominate. That's
Yes.
what I think Jarrett Allen would be. Um, but in today's NBA, um, and now we'll see what happens in the playoffs, but I just don't see Jarrett as a very tough player. And obviously that happened last year, and he even admitted,
Yep.
the lights were way too bright when
He
they
has
played New
shown
York.
some signs this year, but I agree with you. It's going to all
Yeah.
depend on those playoffs. Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. while you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brandon's World podcast right here on YouTube.